Rudy with Alpha Investments here, and today I want to tell a story. We haven't done a story time video in a while, and today we're going to do the story on where the F did all those damn Mirage boxes come from. You're trying to tell me that Rudy predicted years ago that Mirage was going to go up in value? You want me to believe that? We're having a little story time. Take a seat, pull over, pause your triple rated video. So today, I want to tell you guys about a land far, far away and a mirage of a story of it's interesting. This isn't a crazy, erotic, crazy, get you off type story, but it kind of is because it's going to kind of show you guys the thought process of when I was presented with this and why it didn't go through. And it took me literally 4 months to make this one transaction go through. 4 months, people. Not a month or two. It took over 120 days for me to purchase the Mirage booster boxes. Booster and starter term. The whole Mirage purchase as a whole. And again, when I bought all these things, this was years ago. And it was a time where I didn't have a lot of extra money. I was doing a lot of investing in stocks. Well, a little in stocks. Mostly in corporate bonds. I was doing some options trading. I was selling contracts and selling people puts and calls. Naked contracts, for those of y'all who knows what that means, and pocketing the premiums. And I was doing a lot of that type of stuff years ago. And the thing was, I was presented with an opportunity. And I'm going to kind of walk you through what happened. And it's also going to explain to you all kind of how I am, what caused me to be the way I am today, which is when an opportunity comes along that I feel is a good deal, I'm very aggressive to go after it. If I feel it's a once-in-a-lifetime thing, and that window of opportunity, it's not going to stay open all day. It's literally going to, tap on the window. It's going to stay there. You take it or you leave it, or it's going to go somewhere else. And I knew somebody else was going to take the deal, So I want to tell y'all, how it kind of came about and what kind of how it works. So years ago, I was not heavily into magic as I am today. This was probably, let's say 6 years ago. Let's pick a number. I don't remember the exact date. I have to look up the spreadsheet for the transaction and the cost basis, but pretty much somebody had contacted me through eBay. And they saw I had a lot of magic products, vintage things, sealed boxes, all these things. This was all on eBay. And the guy contacted me and said, hey, it looks like you're big into magic. You may have a store. I have a bunch of Mirage boxes you may want. And I said, okay, maybe this guy's got 5 or 6 boxes. Hey, hell, why not? Maybe he's got a case. Maybe he's got like 10 boxes and he's got a whole case for me. So I replied to the guy. And, he said, well, how many do you want? We went back and forth for a few days. And then I started realizing he was an older gentleman. This guy was probably in his 60s, and he wasn't very efficient at using a computer. Like, for me, I go to the computer, I'm like, I type it in, we do it real quick, I send the message, I reply. It was a very good open line of communication. But with this guy on eBay, his feedback was like 10, and the 10 feedback he had was from like selling a $5 item, a $20 item. And out of this nowhere, this guy's like, hey, by the way, I've got tons of magic cards worth tens of thousands of dollars. It reeked of shadiness. Like, literally, I looked at the guy's name, I clicked on his feedback, and the eBay thing popped up and said, welcome to Shady Town. And I was like, well, thank you. I like Shady Town. And I thought, okay. The guy was like, look, I used to be big up with distributors and own a store years ago, and all that stuff that kind of everyone tells you, the same old, hey, I found this thing on Craigslist. I've got an alpha beta set for sale. I've got 15 Black Lotuses. My loss is your gain. Wait, did they just say my loss is your gain? Anyways, so after you realize that their loss is your gain and you're really excited about it, I said, okay, dude, you got to send me some pictures. You're going to have to do something to make me think that you're actually legit. Because right now, you sound like some dude with like the overseas scam or something shady, bro. So after like 2 weeks, and this guy would only send me one message a day. Like, I would send one question, and I'd have to wait till the next day to get a damn reply of one question. And I was like, dude, this isn't even worth it. By like 10 days into it, I was like, this isn't even worth it. I'm wasting my time. I'm done. I'm over this. So The guy wanted $200 for his Mirage starter boxes and booster boxes. Back then, there really wasn't much of a price difference between tournament starter decks and booster boxes. I don't want to get into that in this video. I'll do a separate video about that. But again, pre-foils, there were no foils in these. So if you open a starter deck that has 3 rares and 12 uncommons, it was the same as opening 3 booster packs with 3 rares and, 9 uncommons. I think I said 12. The 3 to 9 ratio was the same. So there was no real benefit or kind of downside to buying a starter deck versus buying 3 booster packs. Actually, the starter decks, you actually got the same 9 uncommons and 3 rares, plus you actually got lands and the commons. So actually, starter decks, although they never sold well and they got discontinued, I always liked them. I preferred them. And I think the market slowly realized that as the years went by. So anyways, the guy wanted something like $200 per box. And I was just like, $200? What are you, flipping crazy? I'm not paying you $200 for flipping Mirage. Why am I going to pay you $200 for a Mirage box? The best card in the set is Lion's Eye Diamond, worth like $40. You want me to pay you $200 for these? The hell is wrong with you? Good God. I mean, yeah, and the future is going to have electric cars and, the Cubs are going to win some World Series. I mean, what's wrong with you, Back to the Future? Jesus, man. So, this guy was nuts. So we went back and forth, and I was like, hey, I'll give you $150 for however many boxes of Mirage you have. And the guy was like, oh, no, that's too low. And I was like, all right, whatever. And he goes, well, I'll come down to $190. And I said, I'm not paying you $190 for Mirage boxes. I'm not going to Hosetown voluntarily. I go there enough because I'm forced to. I'm not going to voluntarily get on the ride and just go out there and sightsee. It's not the way it's going to work. Like, there's going to have to be something to make me want to pull the trigger and tie it up. So then I replied to the guy. This is 2 weeks later now. I've been going back and forth with this guy from eBay, which we now are talking direct email messages off of eBay. This was so many years ago, I think. And the guy says, okay, fine. I have, 200 boxes of Mirage. I said, 200 boxes? First of all, you're full of shit. Nobody's got 200 boxes. And he sent me a picture. And again, that took 2-3 days to get a damn picture years ago. Remember, no smartphones, none of that crap. So I'm sure the guy had some Crackberry phone or some clamshell Razor phone where you open it up. I don't know what he had. Maybe he had a dial phone from 80s brokerage Rudy. I know, I should have had a dial phone. I know, totally pisses me off. Anyway, so I was like, dude, okay, I got your picture. You clearly have the 200 boxes of Mirage. I want your 200 boxes of Mirage. What do we need to do? Well, Rudy, I want $190 a box. Dude, I'm not paying you $190 a box, you home skillet. I don't know if you're a cheese fry, a home skillet, a tater tot. I don't know what you are, but I'm not paying you that. It's a damn ripoff, especially for a bulk order. And I was like, first of all, if you got 200 boxes, let me get out my TI-83 10,000. 200 boxes times 190. That's 38 G's. I had like $3,000 in cash. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to do that. So after about 30 days of going back and forth, the deal fell apart. And it just, the whole negotiation, the conversation, everything dissolved. I went to the computer the next day. I look at my email, and he stopped replying. And I said, okay, whatever. So I think I let it go for like another month. So 2 months later, from the day I first talked to him, I decided to follow up with the guy. And involuntarily, I just sent him another email and said, hey, this is Rudy from Alpha. Are you still interested in selling those boxes? Do you still have them? And he said, oh, hey, Rudy, how are you? Real nice. Again, very short, not a man of little words, very little communication. Rudy, glad you're fine. I still have them. I haven't sold them. I think he was trying to put them on eBay for maybe $220, $230. And back then, it just wasn't going to happen. There was no demand for Mirage. There was just zero demand. It was like Visions, Weatherlight, Exodus, Stronghold. These boxes didn't have a lot of demand back then. I mean, 6 to 10 years ago, nobody wanted these boxes. Like, I can't emphasize that enough. Everybody today is watching this video going, what the hell are you talking about? Everybody wants sets with reserved list cards in them. They're pack fresh boxes with reserved list cards. And nowadays, it seems obvious. Everything is very straightforward. I mean, it's very simple. Like today, I can pick up a pile of Aether Revolt booster packs and say, hey, I shouldn't eat these because they have chemicals. Years ago, people didn't know these had chemicals. People didn't know you couldn't eat booster pack wrappers. Everything is clear and transparent today. But years ago, in the days of Inquest Scry and reserve list buyouts didn't exist and all this stuff was a different tone. People weren't really into it. So, I was like, okay. He made contact with me again. I need to make this purchase go through. So I raised my offer to like $155 a box from $150. He came down to $180. So now we're 2 months from going back and forth, and I'm at $155. He came down to $180. We still have a spread of what? $25, between that gap. So, the guy was like, oh, this still isn't really a big deal. There's only a few boxes. And I was like, a few boxes? Dude, you got like 200. Well, anyways, it turns out he had sold some on eBay and Craigslist and locally for cash. And he was down to like 170 boxes. So he was selling some. And that actually kind of lit a little candle under my ass and made me go, oh, shit. The guy actually is selling some, and somebody else out there realizes that there is value to these Mirage boxes. It's not just a damn Mirage. Haha, pun of the video. And, I was like, okay. So I moved forward with the thing. I said, okay, before I contact the guy again, I need to have the capital. I need to have the money lined up. I'm ready to move forward. I got to figure out what I need to do. So I went to my credit cards. You guys knew I was going to say that. Again, I didn't have the money. I didn't have nearly the savings, the capital, I was not in anywhere the situation many, many years ago. And at this time, I said, okay. I took one of my credit cards, and I got him down. I said, okay, if I can get him down to 160, and he's got 175 boxes, that's like 28 G's now. 28 grand would be the size of the transaction for the Mirage boxes. And I said, okay, I'm going to take a 0% credit card, $30,000 credit limit. And at the time, the balance transfer fee was only like 1%. I know the fees, anyone who's very astute to the way the industry works today, usually the fees are like 4% with no cap, things like that. And to do the balance transfer, to write the balance transfer check to yourself, not a cash advance, people, a balance transfer check that you can deposit yourself. There's a difference between a balance transfer check and a cash advance. Cash advances are for idiots, and they hose you. So I wrote the check to myself for $29,000, and I paid the 1% fee, which was supposed to be $290, except they capped the fee. There was a fee cap back in the day, pre-recession. And I think this was during the recession, actually. Anyways, there was a cap of $75. So the total cost for me to get access to the $29,000 was $75. So I wrote the check to myself. I got access to all the money. I paid a $75 fee. And now I had literally 1 year, 12 months, 12 payments to pay off $29,000. Okay? Or, and as I like to call it, 11 months to pay it off, because by month 12, you better be zero, otherwise they're going to nail you with all that interest. So 11 months to pay off 29 grand. Obviously, I couldn't do that. I could probably make a payment of about $1,000 a month, so I could probably pay half of it off. So that's what I did. So during that time frame, I said, okay, I can pay half of it off, and by 11 months into this purchase of holding these items, I'll still have a balance from 28 to 29,000 down to probably about 16,000. So I'm going to have to do a second balance transfer and pay another $75 fee to one of my other credit cards and pay off the second half on year 2. So I had it lined up. I knew how I was going to move forward with it. I went back to the computer. I said, okay, let's do this shit. I went back to the guy. I raised my offer. I said, fine, 159. And he came back and said, well, I was looking for 170 now. So now that spread of $25 just narrowed to like $10. And I went back and forth, this and that. And then I told him I'll buy a few extra boxes. And long story short, the guy agreed to sell me all the Mirage boxes he owned for $159 shipped. So that is my cost basis. If anybody was wondering, all those Mirage boxes you saw a long time ago and the ones you'll see in these videos, I think I've only bought like 3 or 4 Mirage boxes in the last few years. I really haven't bought many because the prices are so high. But all the boxes I have came from a single purchase. And that single purchase came from literally arguing, going back and forth with one individual. I guess not really arguing, more of negotiating. It took 3 months just to start the process of sending money through PayPal and going back and forth. He shipped a little bit at a time. I made another payment. He shipped more. Because obviously I didn't want to send them all the money at once. He didn't want to send me all the product at once. So we ended up chopping it up and doing like a couple cases a week for so many weeks. So the whole process literally took 4 months for the transaction to be completed. And honestly, I'm still, all the way to today, I'm pretty surprised it went through. I actually, looking back at it now and thinking about it, I was like, damn, I don't want to use the luck word because I'm not a big fan of luck, but wow, that was a really close call because the guy started with 200 boxes. He went down to 170 boxes, which means he sold 15% of his position just during the time we were arguing and going back and forth. But that could have very easily not gone my way. You know, and everybody watching this video now in the comment section is probably going, dude, 159 a box? The guy wanted 170? You almost walked away from a transaction of Mirage boxes because you didn't want to pay 170? And of course, to today's standards, the whole story sounds silly, childish, and just stupid. But you have to remember back then, you know, everybody's watching this video, there was no real magic content on YouTube. YouTube wasn't even really a damn thing unless you just like to watch cat videos or, you know, funny videos. This was an era where none of this stuff existed. You know, the era of just online pricing and online dealers, and everything was very new. Everything was very amateur. I mean, hell, a lot of websites were still using GeoCities and shit like that. You know, everything was still very just sloppy. Nothing was clean cut. Nothing was efficient. Everything was very rough around the edges. So, while it seems like a stupid thing to walk away from it today at 170, back then you had to be real cautious. You know, there were a lot of booster boxes like Nemesis, and during certain eras of Magic, like Fallen Empires, Chronicles, Nemesis, and Prophecy, and some of these sets that never really did a lot. And now these new sets like Theros, Born of the Gamble, and Journey in the Nyx, and Gatecrash, and Return to Rav, and, you know, a lot of these sets aren't doing anything. Some of these sets, like Return to Rav and Journey in the Nyx, are flipping great sets of Magic. And if they were printed any different from years ago and the print run was lower, these things would be really expensive boxes by now. But again, things are so different. Print runs are so high. The mindset is so tilted. People have been burned so badly. There are so many things. Oh, yeah, and that's right. Wizards has so many printers running 24/7, spitting shit out. You have so many forces at work. You know, it's a different world now. So, that was the story of Mirage. That's, if you're all curious, so that's where those boxes came from. There's your answer. I barely got the deal to go through. I should have had more Mirage, but because I was cocky over 20, 30 bucks, I didn't get more. I lost out on a bunch more Mirage boxes. But that's how I did get the ones I have today. Would I buy Mirage boxes today for like $350, $400, or $450? I don't think I would, because I think they will go higher. Eventually, they'll push the 400s and 500s, but that's probably about it. I have a hard time believing there is an invisible glass ceiling to some of these investment vehicles, specifically sealed products. I mean, you know, there's a certain point where booster boxes aren't going to move much more. I mean, other people say, well, Rudy, you're wrong, because, you know, Urza's Saga, when that thing hit 500, people were selling them like crazy. Then it went to 700, then 1,000. And now Urza's Saga boxes are like 1,200, 1,300. And of course, you can get them a little lower if you're lucky on an auction. But, you know, I think everything's relative, and it's very difficult for the kind of the brain and the mindset of everybody to kind of foresee things that are just so crazy. And that's all I really have to say with the story. I just wanted everyone to kind of sit back and kind of think about that and let it soak in. And, you know, I think the takeaway from this, I don't think it's really, oh, okay, Rudy bought Mirage boxes at a cheap price from years ago. Great story, bro. Nobody cares. I think the takeaway from the story to me is more of, I think everybody needs to be careful being stuck with a certain mindset and seeing everything through a certain lens. Because examples like this, I think, reinforce how it's very difficult to see things at future values and future scenarios and what the world will actually be like so far away. And I think that's kind of a good takeaway, because I just remember so many examples of this from years ago of when, Fallen Empire boxes were $20, $30, when unglued booster boxes and unhinged booster boxes were $30. Hell, they were being given away by David Adams Card World. But at the time, nobody had any idea what the future held. And I think sometimes it takes a really bizarre, outside-the-box story to make people sit back and realize that you really cannot predict what's going to happen. Mirage boxes could be worthless. Magic could be worthless. Everything I'm doing on this channel could be wrong in 30 years. Everybody could look back and be like, dude, that was the guy with the channel who made in 2016 and 17 that did magic videos, and he disappeared because he lost everything. Nobody really knows. I mean, I'm going to do my best to navigate and give everyone my opinion on what I'm doing. But at the end of the day, there's no real way to predict how all this stuff's going to unfold. There's too many moving parts. And there's no way to grasp or understand the answer to it. There's no way to predict the future. And it just kind of makes me chuckle when these people online always claim to be really cocky or know what the next thing is. And maybe they will be right. Maybe they have a right to be cocky because they know it, but I don't. And stories like this prove the point that I really don't. Because if I knew what the future held, I would have just bought every damn box of Mirage for $170, $80 and not giving a shit, because I would have made money anyways. But it just shows you can't look at it that way. So to wrap it all up, this story also gives people insight to why I'm very cautious on missing out on opportunities. I'm very concerned. I get very worried when I think I'm going to miss an opportunity. Hence the Roaring Skies right now in Pokemon. That's a big deal. The reprint, everyone's fire selling them. The stores are dumping them. They're all over eBay. But I'm just very cautious to just dump something. I'm very cautious to just let something be. I'm very, look at the conspiracy. I'm going to make another video on conspiracy too. X-Appropriate, what's the blue mythic? X-Pro, whatever that card is. That was a card that I never sold all of, and I have like 100 of them because I didn't want to sell them for $2 a card. And apparently, as the filming of this video, the thing jumped to like $20 a card. Who knows? We'll see what happens. I don't know when this video is going to go live. So the thing is, it just shows that you can't predict. And because of all this stuff, it makes Rudy very jittery on decision-making and very cautious on missing opportunities, because I'm very nervous to miss out on, oh man, look, I hate looking back and regretting and missing all that stuff. I would rather make the move and fail than not make the move and regret shit. Regret is the worst, man. And that's why nowadays, when things come out, I'm like this. I'm like, oh, wait. Rudy with Alpha Investments. You guys have a great day. Hope you enjoyed this story.